Let's talk about AOC for a minute. She's not someone I particularly want to talk about on my channel. You may never see a video about her again on here. There's a possibility, but who knows? Like I said, she's not someone big on my radar because what is she, a junior congresswoman? Who cares? Can you name any others? She's not someone we should be particularly interested in. Problem is, she has almost 4 million Twitter followers. Does that sound normal to you? Like I said, can you name any other junior congress people, let alone one that has 1 million, 2 million followers on Twitter? So this woman has a lot of influence for some reason. Probably most likely because she's like a bug-eyed younger woman in Congress now, and they like to pump it up as some grand achievement. She tends to say a lot of dumb shit. She's quote-unquote very progressive, and she's one of these progressives trying to worm her way into the Democratic Party and take over, and they're allowing it to happen, so they're gonna be screwed eventually. That's a story for another time. But I just want to show you this clip from some guy I never heard of, Chris Hayes. I guess this is his show, and she was on there, and this is what she had to say.
On the events of September 11th, 2001, thousands of Americans died in the largest terrorist attack on U.S. soil. And our national response, whether we agree with it or not, our national response was to go to war in one, then eventually 2 countries. 3,000 Americans died in Puerto Rico in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. Where is our response?
All right. Where do we start with this? It may not sound that annoying on the surface, but to me, it really digs deep. Quite honestly, I'm getting sick of these false dichotomies and shit analogies and terrible comparisons, especially when it comes to 9/11, because this trivializes 9/11. I'm sick of the trivialization of 9/11. I can't stand when people like to compare other things to 9/11, as if it's going to be a valid comparison. Oh, when this happens, what do? Nothing but a 9/11 and we go to war. Let me start off with the first obvious thing. 9/11 was a terror attack on our soil like something we've never seen before. It's definitely one of the most tragic events ever to happen to the country. Did it have the most casualties of any big event, natural disaster, or man-made throughout history? No. But the implications of this terror attack are against the very foundations of our country and everything we stand for, being Americans. The right to live your life freely without having to worry about something like that ever happening. It's worse than Pearl Harbor was, in my opinion. With Pearl Harbor, these are soldiers. At least they know at any point they could be summoned to war. They may have to encounter an attack of some sort. They weren't expecting it, but it had to be in the back of their mind always. These are just people going to their office building to work, to make money for themselves and their family, to live their life. And what did 9/11 do? Embolden other terrorists. There's more terrorism than ever now since 9/11. So of course the response has to be swift and harsh. Oh, and can I remind her that you can't really go to war against a hurricane? I know I'm being a little bit crass there, but the response, what is the response she wants? You can argue that maybe the response hasn't been good enough for Puerto Rico, but that's a totally separate issue. It has nothing to do with 9/11. What's 9/11 got to do with it? Stop comparing natural disasters where people planned for, knew it was coming, to a terrorist event that killed 3,000 people that no one was expecting. No one had any clue it was coming. And it was man-made. It isn't a natural disaster, which happens all the time. And there's always relief from plenty of countries all over the world when these things happen. But it's a natural disaster. It's something that occurs all the time. The response is never going to be equal to the biggest terror attack that occurred in the entire world's history. It's nonsensical. It's pointless to even bring up. Stop comparing shit to 9/11. This is why we have this whole Islamophobia trope going around. Why? Because of people like Linda Sarsour, who after 9/11, what were their narratives? Oh, we gotta worry about, the 0.00 whatever percentage of Muslims that may be attacked by retarded Americans in anger after the attacks of 9/11, instead of the actual terrorist groups that caused this problem. Their claims that our rhetoric about these terrorist groups cause violence against American Muslims. That was her focus, when it should have been on the terrorist groups. And hells yeah, we're gonna swiftly attack them. And unfortunately, I think we're leaving that area now, and the Taliban still has firm control over plenty of those areas, so great. Leave it without finishing the job. That's just going to set us up for another 9/11 in the future. But why do we do that? Because people like AOC and all these other fucking weak people bitch that we're at war that we shouldn't be at. No, we should have wiped them out by now. We're almost done with ISIS. Why haven't we taken care of the Taliban yet? They were around for so much longer. We should have taken them out already. But because of weak people like her and other Americans that are so anti-war, they'll be around for much, much longer and cause much, much more death in the world. That shit is on you people. But what was our response to Puerto Rico? Let's find out. FEMA public assistance funding tops $3 billion for Puerto Rico. FEMA has awarded more than $320 million in public assistance grants to Puerto Rico for Hurricane Maria-related costs on the island. This brings the total to more than $3 billion in public assistance funds that FEMA has obligated to the government of Puerto Rico and municipalities. So that's $3 billion to Puerto Rico. Now, if you want to argue that that's not enough, that's an argument for a different day. But stop trying to make a point about something that you may or may not be right about by comparing it to 9/11 and saying we should do just like we did for that. We should be swift about it and persistent and harsh. It's just an asinine point of view, in my opinion. By the way, besides that $3 billion, there's also $21 billion that we give annually in federal aid to Puerto Rico. Federal aid, according to the Consolidated Federal Funds Report compiled by the U.S. Census Bureau, Puerto Rico has received more than $21 billion annually in federal aid from the United States. So they get $21 billion from us annually, regardless of a hurricane or not. So the reason this bothers me so much is because, like, I was right there on 9/11. I seen fucking people crying. I saw people jump out of the fucking building, okay? It was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. It's one of the most tragic events in history. I think it's the most tragic event in the United States. And you're damn right we had to go to war after it. And unfortunately, we haven't taken out the people who did start it, which we should have done already. But unfortunately, we have this problem in our own country of, self-hate. Trash our country constantly. And it's used as an excuse for, I care about my country, so of course I'm gonna complain when they're doing bad shit. It's like the opposite of regular nationalists who are like, America first. America first, we gotta do good for America. These people are like, oh, we gotta criticize America first. No matter what. Let's point out all the bad shit America does and never care about all the good it does. And don't compare it to other countries who definitely don't do as well or as much. Just ignore all that. It's the opposite sides of the same fucking coin. Anyway, guys, have a good night.